Hello. This is a project I have been working on for a while. It is basically entirely 100% based on Wings of Fire because that is the greatest thing that has ever been created, and I will stand by it, and I will fight someone if I have to. Please don't. I can't do this with a straight face. I'm talking at a screen. Anyway. That is too far out. This is Uniting Wings. Flee from capture. And basically I'm just going to show off the map. This awesome title page that I drew by myself. Because I'm awesome. And yeah. And the map and the dragons and maybe the prologue. And maybe the first chapter. Probably not though. Yeah. So this is a title page. This is a dragon. If you couldn't tell, it's a dragon. And no, it's not a sea wing. And here we have the map. Yes, it is a map. We have the Frost Kingdom, Swamp Kingdom, the Mystery Kingdom, the Desert Kingdom, the Ocean Kingdom, the Skyward Empire, fun, and a Volcano Kingdom, not to be confused with the Nightwing house place thing. Very different. And here we have the first page of dragons. First off, let's zoom in again. Let's zoom in more, because that's not enough. Let's zoom in even more, because this computer kind of sucks sometimes. This is a Zephyr Spike. And yes, I drew all of these dragons myself. These Zephyr Spikes are large dragons with massive wings. Their scales come in gray, gray-blue, and blue. They often have orange or red highlight scales, which are just scales. The feathers on their tails give them increased flight stability. I'm very bad at this. They can create large gusts of wind with their wings. Their queen is Queen Skyward. Psy Spikes. Appearance, purple or blue scales. Small dragons. Nobody cares who their queen is because they're so weak and small. Frost Spikes. Abilities and appearance. Medium dragons with white, blue, green, or even yellow scales. Most of them are almost so light in color that one can hardly tell the difference between white and color. The tail barb slowly freezes the victim's blood. Their queen is Queen Frigid. I accidentally did that. The worst picture, Flare Spikes. I plan to redraw this one soon. I might notify people if and when I do. Red, orange, or yellow scales. They can breathe in smoke and volcanic ash without any repercussions. They have filters in their nose and mouth and lungs. They have filtered everything. They are a filter. They have long-ranged fire breath and excellent eyesight and hearing. Their queen is Queen Ignite. Shadow Spikes. Dark scales, gray, black, or sometimes dark green. They can breathe fire if they are warm enough, and easily blend in with the shadows. Their queen is Queen Vanish. They are also very ugly, but not really, because, well, these are all really bad drawings. Steel Spikes. Massive dragons with metallic scales. They have the most powerful fire ever known by dragonkind, but it only reaches half the distance as their snout. As you can see there, that is the full distance of their fire. Their queen is Queen Gold. the cove spikes, which you may recognize from up here. Oceanic scales with the ability to store water inside their bodies to either drink later or shoot out like a deadly boiling or freezing water jet. Their queen is Queen Octopus. And now the prophecy. If I can find it. It's right there. I'm just going to use my finger. A whisper of the wind, a shaking of the skies. 1,000 wings to fly, 1,000 wings to hide. 5 stars have fallen to heed a silent whisper, to stop a well-kept secret, to keep the peace we've taken for granted. The sky is coming down. The stars have fallen. With wings united, they hold the sky. Unless the sky can learn to fly, Silverwood will fall. And I think I forgot to write it up here, but this is me having to zoom out again. This is the map of the kingdoms, the Silverwood Archipelago. Very island. The prologue. Might as well. Miss, I do not understand. The Lavender Dragon growled gently as he sat closer to the young dragonette. The dark purple dragonette looked up at him with misty blue eyes, then down at the soil, her talons quickly writing in the soft earth. Do not understand. Understanding will come when the sky is full once more. The Lavender Dragon sighed, unable to grasp the meaning of the dragonette's many riddles. She often gave mysterious warnings about the weather, many of which came true a couple of days later, but all were riddle-like and vague, none as vague as what she had said to him the night before. He had stumbled upon her frantically scribbling an ominous message in the sand on the western beach of the Mystery Kingdom, not far from the village. Even then she absent-mindedly scribbled the same message on the dirt. He dared not to reread it. It was too frightening. The 7 kingdoms had been through a time of constant peace, but this strange message foretold that it ended. Mystic, you must stop writing that. There is no danger, and you mustn't scare the other dragonettes, he said sternly, but quietly. Mystic looked up at him again. In her eyes was a look of fearful knowledge. She often looked wise beyond her years and often acted very mature. The Lavender Dragon was sure of one thing. The queens must not know of the message. Perhaps, if it came true, he did not wish to think of that. The message would not stop repeating in his mind. He was frightened. I want to read chapter 1, so we're going to read chapter 1 now. Yay, chapter 1! Urchin stared blankly at the dark green dragon ahead of him. The dragon's talons were moving quickly in shown language, and Urchin was supposed to be watching Eel rant about proper battle technique. Urchin, however, could care less about fighting other dragons. He would much rather be meeting all the dragon queens with his sister. He focused on what Eel was saying for a few seconds, in case he needed to, eventually, respond. And your back talons must always be ready when fighting underwater, not hanging by your tail like sea slugs. Eel was just as rudely specific as ever. Urchin looked just behind Eel, trying his best to at least look like he was paying attention. Eel had other ideas, though. He grabbed Urchin's snout aggressively. Urchin growled, rubbing his sore snout as Eel scolded him. You haven't been paying attention this entire time, have you? No. You are a failure compared to... Yes, I am a failure compared to my brothers. You've said that many times. Urchin would never admit that it was true, although it was rather obvious. Urchin's brothers, all 5 of them, all paid close attention to Eel's lessons. The oldest ones were sent to small coast-like villages to serve under a commander. Even Urchin's only younger brother, Anglerfish, was close to getting sent to do something important. Eel started ranting about how well his brothers paid attention. Lionfish learned his battle technique when he was 4 years old. You are 5 and still struggling after 3 months of excess training. Urchin glared at Eel. Lionfish was Urchin's oldest brother, and by far the most successful warrior ever trained by Eel. Urchin remembered when he was 3. He had accidentally eavesdropped on Mother giving Lionfish his first important assignment, guarding his sister when she met all the dragon queens. The 2 royal dragons were scheduled to arrive home next year, which Mother and Father were very pleased about. Even Anglerfish has mastered this technique. He is 4 years old and already catching up to the others. Urchin was desperate to get out of this conversation. He knew that Eel would be able to pull hours worth of comparisons of him and Lionfish out of his lopsided face. The water around Urchin's shifted. Someone was coming into his room. He looked towards the marble doorway he had decorated with a singular bit of lopsided coral that had a pattern almost like leopard print. The dragon coming into his room was smaller than him, and I have changed it so that she is now just normal blue. I'm going to change that right now, because she's not anemone. She was blue. Just plain old blue. Plain. Princess, I'm afraid Urchin is quite busy at the moment. Eel looked at the dragon. The dragon was Urchin's sister from the same hatching, Tetra. Yes, he looks very extremely focused and busy, Tetra signed. Urchin scowled. I am not busy or focused, he signed back. I know, you slug brain, his sister teased. I was being sarcastic. Urchin felt warm with embarrassment. He could never tell if his sister or anyone was serious. Anyway, Princess, I'm sure Urchin will be free in a few, Eel paused, searching for a word. Years. He finished, with a grin. Oh, go shove a sea cucumber up your snout, Eel. I need to borrow one of my brothers. Tetra signed grouchily. It just so happens that Urchin is my twin. Urchin raised his talons to sign, That sounds painful. But Eel was quickly signing away. Why must you borrow any of your brothers? Eel growled warm bubbles. Especially the least useful one of them. That stung. But Urchin was used to this kind of talk from Eel. Because Mother wants me to meet the Governor of Justice, Tetra signed, her eyes filled with joy. Urchin knew that Tetra was very excited about leaving the palace grounds. He knew she would be able to soon, though, because she was 5.5 years old now. She says I need a guard, though. Of course, Your Majesty. But you must want a dragon who can actually defend you. Eel glared at Urchin, which clearly meant he was no use for anything. Nope, only Urchin. Tetra smiled sweetly as she signed. Eel was clutching his head. The thought of Urchin being Tetra's guard must have been hard on him, even when it was a tradition that a Cove Spike prince that has the same hatching as a princess would protect her. Urchin was the only other dragon in Tetra's hatching. Fine then. Urchin, you can be there so the princess doesn't talk my ear off, Eel signed. But I will come as her protection, because Urchin is so incompetent. Urchin and Tetra tried for a long few moments, but it was impossible to change Eel's mind. Soon after, though, Tetra had forgotten her displeasure about Eel and happily gone to pack with one bag of things she could take. Urchin couldn't take any personal belongings unless they were some form of jewelry item, which wasn't a big deal because Urchin didn't have anything he absolutely needed. The only things that Urchin liked were a simple looped gold earring and a necklace with a golden snail shell charm. He draped the necklace over his head, watching it float lazily through the water around his neck. His next step was to find Mother. Urchin swam through the beautifully built underwater portion of the palace, a labyrinth of submerged marble hallways with a few larger sitting rooms spread out, each one containing a map of the palace. Urchin didn't need the map, but a few dragons did. He saw some dragons studying it intently, probably visiting friends or family from one of the major Ocean Kingdom cities' governors. Urchin's first stop was the very large room that connected directly to a peculiar and sheer drop into the open ocean. Mother was not there. Near the opposite side of the room there was a dark blue dragon, plucking bits of drifting seaweed from the water and putting them in a basket. Urchin swam swiftly over to the dragon and signed in Shone language. "Where's Queen Octopus?" he asked. The dragon looked at him. "The queen is waiting at the palace gates to see off Princess Tetra and her chosen guarding prince," the dragon responded. Urchin thanked the dragon and swam out of the massive opening into the open ocean. Urchin could see the surface ahead of him as he swam straight up, splashing as he launched out of the water into a wobbly flight. The front gates weren't far away, and Urchin made his way to them slowly and wobbly. "I wonder what Mother will think when she finds out Eel is coming," Urchin thought. "Maybe she'll leave him to stay back and uphold the tradition?" Urchin hoped she would. After flying a short distance, he saw the impressively carved wood and jewel doors of the front gates. Just ahead of the gates were 4 dragons. He immediately recognized his mother, Queen Octopus, as one of them. The Covespike Queen was often described as the perfect color of blue. Her scales were the color of tropical shallow waters. I got that backwards. The other dragons were the bright green shape of Urchin's father, Isle, one of Urchin's older brothers, a rude-looking purple dragon named Seahorse, and Urchin's younger brother, Anglerfish, who looked just like their mother. Urchin tried to make his landing as not lopsided as he could, but ended up shuffling his wings closed clumsily. "Any dragon would think I've never flown in my life, let alone that I'm royalty," he thought while listening to the click of his talons on the white stone path. "Urchin," Isle said, "how has your training with Eel been going?" Urchin's talons felt heavy. Should he tell the truth? Your Majesty, his training has been disastrous." Eel flew down from one of the palace balconies, his face ready for a serious amount of insulting. "Eel, is that news?" Seahorse growled. "Is it?" Urchin thought with a shock. Did his brothers not know about his training? Not necessarily, but Urchin is not fit to accompany the princess in any way. He is incompetent with a spear, his guard is always down, and he cannot tell lies from truths. Urchin growled softly. His guard was not always down, just most of the time. "Eel, it is a tradition that the prince in the same hatching as a princess must protect her, no matter if he or the princess is ready or not." Mother growled with authority. "Exactly!" Tetra flopped down in the most lopsided landing Urchin had ever seen, right next to Mother. Urchin will come as a representative of that tradition, but Eel could protect me since he's so good at it. She added the last part under her breath. "How do you know he's good at it? I haven't seen him protect anyone in my life," Urchin thought while glaring at Eel, who was nodding contently about that plan. "I have friends in justice, Your Majesty. I could stage an attack, so it would appear that the young prince protected his sister and upheld the tradition." Eel smiled. A fake attack? Urchin thought. Is that smart or stupid? Mother was in deep contemplation, her brow furrowed as she thought. "So long as nothing happens to either of my dragonets, Eel, you may accompany them," Mother growled. Anglerfish wore the same distracted expression that he always did, while Seahorse rolled his eyes and growled. And that's it. I just heard a bug. Anyway, that's it. Bye. Do stuff with your life, like eating food. Don't forget to do that. That's kind of important. Now,